can you still make it without selling out? Fame, freedom, and the price of the dream. You know what they never tell you when you start chasing the dream? They don't tell you that success comes with a leash. They don't tell you that for every door you kick open in this business, there's a contract waiting on the other side, written in invisible ink that says, "We own a piece of you now." We've all seen it. The kid with a guitar and a dream, burning through the clubs, raw, fearless, real. Then a few years later, the same kid singing songs written by committee, smiling through PR-approved interviews, and pushing sneakers instead of soul. What happened? Simple. Somewhere along the way, they stopped chasing music and started chasing acceptance. But here's the thing. It's not just the record labels anymore. Now it's the algorithm, the influencer deals, the sponsorships, the endless pressure to be on brand. It's a different kind of leash, but it still chokes just the same. The question isn't, can you make it without selling out? The question is, will you stand your ground when the easy money and fake fame come calling? Because being authentic in this game, that's the real rebellion now. That's the new punk rock. So today we're breaking down what it really means to make it. How to build a career, not a commodity. How to be proud of your music, not just your metrics. And maybe, most importantly, how to stay true when the world keeps trying to buy pieces of your soul. Now, I remember an interaction, and this was probably over 11 or 12 years ago. Somebody online was arguing with a well-known country music star, and the person was expressing their opinion. And the country music star came back with, "Well, you only have 100 followers, so you're nobody." And I thought, man, you know, for one, perhaps arguing with your fans online, perhaps that's not a great PR strategy. I know there are a few artists that like to do it. But man, negating somebody for not having tons of followers. Look, does your grandmother have a ton of followers? Would you negate her opinion? Does your mom have a lot of followers? Probably not. Right? And here's the deal, man. Social media has put everybody, in a sense, on sort of an equal playing field, right? And people do have opinions. You can't expect everybody to like everything. I don't expect everybody to like every video that I put out. That's just reality, right? Nobody's going to like everything. And look, I understand. I find it interesting when I'll have an opinion about something and I hear somebody else and their opinion is completely different. And I think, wow, how unique that is that we all have certain things that trigger us. We all have different opinions, right? But here's the real zinger with this. You know, what making it used to mean, right? In this business, right? Now it might be about how many followers you have. But back when the goal was the stage, not the stream count. We didn't used to play for algorithms or how many, subscribers we have or how many followers, on social media. We just used to play for applause. And we would get that applause. We would take our guitar, carry it off the stage, and either climb on a tour bus or get back in our own personal vehicle, right? But now, with the algorithm and social media and all of these things, right? Those at the top sit there with all of their great metrics, right? While those at the bottom sit there and perhaps critique those at the top, right? And just because somebody doesn't have a ton of followers doesn't necessarily mean that they don't know anything or they don't have a valid opinion. And I think both are right in some ways. But back in the day, man, we didn't play for algorithms. We played because we loved to play music. That is seemingly all gone now because of social media. Here's the thing, man. There's the myth of the record deal as the ultimate dream. And I don't think that myth exists anymore because you can make it happen now without a record deal. You can do it all organically on your own. You can use this system that the big stars use and the big PR firms and all that. And you can figure out a way to make it. You can find a way to rise to the top. But it's not going to be easy. There is the modern trap that we live in. Social media validation, brand partnerships, and the illusion of independence, right? But we're not really completely independent anymore. And look, man, I've had to demo products on my channel, and I love getting the opportunity to, demo these products and tell you what I think about them. But there has been times where somebody has sent a product and it wasn't up to snuff. I didn't think it could sound good. I couldn't get a good sound out of it. And I just flat out emailed him and told him, hey, man, I'm sorry, but I cannot demo this on my channel and give it a good review. Well, tell us what you thought. And I told him exactly what I thought. I plugged it in. I turned it on. I went through the presets and I couldn't find one that sounded good. And look, man, people have accused me in the past of being able to make anything sound good. And I thank you very much if you're of that opinion. But look, man, I'm just one guy, right? And here's the deal. The modern trap that we live in, they tell you to be yourself as long as that self is marketable. And that's the dangerous trap that we're in. Everybody's trying to squeeze into this narrow field of beauty, this narrow field of acceptance. But self-promotion can become self-erasure if you're constantly trying to be something you're not, to fit into an algorithm to make yourself take off. Now, there's many faces of selling out. Overproduced songs, auto-tune, quantization, trickery, recording trickery, stealing other people's licks and passing them off as your own, right? Fake personas. Now, look, even subtle compromises, they add up. And I can remember Eric Johnson talking about something as minute as the screws on a Stratocaster and every little part and how each little tiny detail added up to a great tool of tone, right? But look, if you compromise yourself a little bit each way, the filter on the photos, the auto-tune, the quantization, the click tracks, all of those things, those subtle compromises add up into essentially what is a fake product. You don't sell out in one big moment. It's death by 1,000 small yeses. There's a fine line between growth and giving in. Now, here is the path of integrity, and that's what I'm trying to do on this channel. Building slow, loyal audiences through honesty and craft, right? And here's the thing, man. You can promote videos on YouTube. You can buy, boosts on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff, or try to pay to get on spot lists, playlists, and all those things, man. That's not real, right? And look, it's taken me my whole life to find my voice, to find what I need to do with my career. And building this channel is a huge part of it, right? If you build a house of hype or a home for your art, that is the choice, right? You could have a house of hype or a home for your art. Only one will still be standing in 10 years. Hype gets blown out, right? If you can't produce what you do live, at some point, we're going to figure it out. If you can't go out there with one light bulb and a guitar, a chord, and an amp, then, man, eventually you're going to get exposed. There are many artists who walked the line and stayed true. And history has been kind to them for great reason, because reality is getting harder and harder to find today. Now, here's the deal, man. We all need to redefine success. Shift your focus from fame to fulfillment, from charts to connection. Look, it doesn't matter anymore if I get a song on the charts. I used to think that was my end goal. If somebody could record my song, or one of my songs would get on the radio, or all that. And I had to settle for hearing my guitar on the radio playing on somebody else's song. That was a way that I redefined success, right? But that's okay, right? Now finding my connection and getting people to listen to what I have to say here on this channel, well, that's my way of redefining success. And everybody has to find their own way to do that. You don't need 1 million followers. You just need 1,000 who get it. And once you find 1,000 who get it, that snowball is going to roll down that hill, and it's going to get bigger and bigger. There is great freedom from not chasing approval, just chasing what you want to do and learning to redefine your success. At the end of the day, selling out isn't about money. It's about motive. It's about what drives you to pick up that guitar, write that song, or step on that stage. If you're doing it because you've got something to say, that's art. If you're doing it because you've got something to sell, that's business. And yeah, there's a difference. But here's the deal, man. Most people don't see the real ones, the lifers, the ones who stay in the game. They find a way to do both without losing their soul. They learn to make a living without making a lie. They let the money serve the music, not the other way around. Look, everyone's got a line. The trick is knowing where yours is and never crossing it just because the crowd's cheering louder on the other side. because fame fades, trends die, algorithms change. But authenticity, that's the one currency that never devalues. So if you're out there grinding, wondering if it's even possible to make it without bending the truth, I'm here to tell you it is. It's harder, slower, and lonelier, but it's real. And real is what lasts. Maybe you'll never headline Coachella. Maybe you won't see your name in neon lights. But when you look in the mirror and you still recognize the person holding that guitar, that's victory. That's the quiet kind of success most people never find. So keep your compass steady. Keep your soul intact. Play the long game, because the world doesn't need another fake superstar. It needs more honest voices willing to bleed for what's real. That's the truth. That's the test. And that, my friends, is how you make it without selling out.